I played Neopets when I was a kid. It's a big part of my childhood where I played this game to connect with my friends from Canada. It's actually the sense of like accomplishment, but also the sense of comfort that you get when someone's like when your pet is keeping your company. For example, we brought back more than 100 mini games by using emulators so that people can play these Flash-based mini games again.
Hello everyone, I'm Batuhan from Mobility. Today I have the CEO of Neopets, a virtual pets game, 25-year-old game. We'll talk about web games, IP games with Dominic. Not much mobile games today, so it will be a very interesting interview for me as well. Dominic, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Dominic, this you're running a 25-year-old web game with a virtual pets. You've been in gaming before. How did you start your career?
Yeah, so I played Neopets when I was a kid. It's a big part of my childhood where I played this game to connect with my friends from Canada. So I grew up in Canada and I moved back to Hong Kong, and I played this game to kind of like it's like as a bridge. So that's why kind of like for a few years I've sunk in many hours in the game, but that's kind of like just like now that I'd be able to run this and revive Neopets as an IP it's a very interesting career move for me, to be honest. And it's all started kind of like around 5, 6 years ago when I was exploring what to do next after finishing my MBA degree and also exited my previous startup. I was like exploring, okay, what could I do? And I decided to join this company, Chinese gaming company called NetDragon. And one of the reasons why I joined is because they actually acquired the Neopets IP from part of a larger acquisition 8 years ago. And knowing that I can join and have part of the mandate is to really help them to restructure their overseas business and also looking at the overall strategy and things like that. And one thing led to another. We eventually did a management buyout of the Neopets IP. We spun it off as an independent studio. And then a group of us from different parts of Neopets, from NetDragon, kind of came together. Now we're basically all of us all play Neopets. A lot of us still play Neopets. And then we're now reviving the game that we all love. So that's kind of how I got into this and led me into this interesting and exciting gaming industry.
But you didn't become the CEO because you were a player, no? There must be another reason for that.
Well, I guess being a player helps me to connect with the community and understand what needs to be done to revive a 25-year-old game. So I guess that's part of it.
So you're a CEO for more than a year. I think it's almost 2 years right now. And the game is like 25 years old. Like what has changed since you take over the leadership?
So there's quite a lot. I think in a nutshell, we're actually doing a lot of bug fixes. We're bringing back a lot of our old contents to really make Neopets enjoyable and playable as a game. We have a lot of classic users and core users, which is the core group of our community that basically have been playing Neopets for more than 10, 15, or even 20 years. And in the past 10 years, Neopets has been pretty kind of underinvested, and there's a lot of broken parts inside the game. And the most of all is like the death of Flash makes half of the sites or even more becomes unplayable. So since we took over, a big part of it is actually fixing a lot of these tech stack. For example, we brought back more than 100 mini games by using emulators so that people can play these Flash-based mini games again. We're also trying to fight inflation in the game. We try to bring new plots and new content and also bringing back old game features to really make the kind of reinforce the original gameplay that have always been existing in Neopets. So that's kind of the main things that we've done. So we kind of turned the game a lot more playable, and the growth has always been driven by returning lapsed users who played Neopets in the past. And then we're also seeing that with all these changes, we're getting like the better user engagement, better community feedback, and also attracting kind of some new users as well to come back for nostalgia or to experience what the early internet of gaming looks like. So it's a pretty interesting journey so far.
You mentioned nostalgia. So how do you keep running a 25-year-old game that people will still feel this nostalgia? So I'm not sure there is a like user one like 25 years ago and that person is still playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be surprised. I think at Neopets, I think because it's like a virtual companion, and then a lot of people really have a very strong connection to the pets that they've been nurturing, they've been customizing. So a big part of it, it's also the social element and the community element of Neopets. So a lot of people come back for nostalgia, they come back to say hi to their childhood, but it's also really to say hi to their Neopets. And that kind of one of the main reasons that keeps them coming back to really visit their pets, nurture them, feed them is a big part of it. But also, majority of our growth has been kind of like attracting lapsed users who have left Neopets in the past maybe like 5 years ish. But they most of them have been playing Neopets for more than 5, 10 years. And the reason why they left at that point is because there's just too many bugs, there's lack of update and things like that. So really they're coming back for nostalgia, but they're also coming back to reconnect with the community. So we are seeing that that stickiness and that loyalty of our player base really helps to keep the community thriving. But of course, without new updates, without new gameplay, it will be hard if we're just attracting people to come back to say hi to their pets, play for 10 minutes, and they kind of like, they'll be gone. So that's why we're also extending Neopets into kind of like more in licensing and merchandise. They're making more ways for our community to enjoy Neopets with brand new gaming experiences that not just on the browser, but also into board games, into trading card games, into like blind blocks plushies or kind of just different merch that they can collect, but also enjoy Neopets in a different format.
We'll talk about the other parts of the IP because you have like merchandise and other games and so on. But I'm curious about something. I mean, virtual pets is pretty much exist to this day of any game. We had this small toys, there are apps, there's the Neopets, for sure there are other browser games. But what as humans, do you know what's the psychology that we are attracted to growing something virtually instead of a real plant or a I mean,
Well, well, it's actually not very. It's actually very similar of why we like pets, like to have like real pets in real life. It's actually the sense of like accomplishment and also the sense of comfort that you get when like when your pet is keeping your company. Sometimes like when your dog is at home, they just sit by your side. They're a great listener. They don't really have to. You don't have to really do much, but you still feel the joy and the comfort. I think with virtual pet is actually the same where it's like a sense of you're taking care of your pet, you're nurturing it, seeing it growing up, getting some reaction when they level up, getting some reaction when they're fed. That actually gives you a sense of like proud ownership as well. And on the other hand, specifically for Neopets, where you can customize your pets, you can collect items, and there's a lot of like gameplay where you want to trade the items and collect more, like accumulate more wealth inside the game so that you can buy better items and equip it for your pets. That's kind of like where the emotional attachment also brings in because like you're expressing your social identity in a way through how you customize your pet. But also once you customize your pet, the psychology is that this is your pet. It's just like when you have, I have a Frenchie and I have a pug. Like if I look at all the Frenchies and all the pugs out there, I definitely found this kind of like breed of dog was like the cutest. But also if my dog is a bunch of other dogs, I can easily recognize, okay, that is my dog. And that kind of happens with the magic of Neopets is once you customize your pet, although that Neopet species, a lot of other people might have the same species, but that exact pet will be unique to yourself. And that's where the emotional attachment normally forms is when you actually treat that character, that Neopets, as something that's unique to yourself. And I think that's kind of part of the psychology of what the power of virtual pet games. And also from a more like in terms of self-care. Like what a lot of scientific research shows that like the best self-care is actually to learn to care for others. So learning to care for a pet is actually also a way of improving your own self-care. And I think that's kind of like a psychological factor as well. When having a virtual pet and actively engaging in the virtual pet community, where you have like interaction and showcasing your pet, but also having kind of like these community aspect actually keeps people happy, and it actually is part of the gameplay that why it makes it satisfying to play a virtual pet game.
it's interesting. It has the same psychology. They say if you can take care of an egg for a week, you can become a pet. So I think you. you need an award for keeping your Neopet for a long time as well. So my next question is about general IP games question. There's this terminology called like forever franchises, right? Like Camp Crash, for example. So how do you retain the old players and attract new ones? Because I'm not sure if every player is like attracted to okay, like 25-year-old game or something like that. So newcomers versus old players.
Yep. Yeah, I think for our classic game, kind of like the Neopets game that's been around for 25 years, we believe that nostalgia is definitely a powerful emotion that can drive millennials who grew up with Neopets to come back. But in terms of attracting new users, I would say it's probably harder for Neopets at its current state to really attract new players to be interested in playing a 25-year-old game. Although there is an angle where like new players might be interested to explore, oh, how does early internet games look like? And Neopets is actually a living relic that really best preserved the early internet gaming culture, being one of the handful of games that's been around for 25 years and running continuously. But also because of the lack of update we've done in the past 10 years, we actually kept that culture pretty well in terms of the look and view and how. And so in that perspective, it could be interesting for new generation of players just to check us out. But like, do we have enough to keep them coming or keep them coming back? I'm not sure, but that's where we want to expand our brand and the IP of Neopets and really create new gaming experiences that are more modernized and that's ready for attracting new generation of users. So it doesn't have to be the classic game. It could be a lot of these new merchandise, new kind of like physical gaming experiences that we build, or it could be the new mobile games that we're launching. So I think all these are kind of like the ways that we're attracting new users, but not necessarily with the 25-year-old classic game itself. But as an IP, what we're trying to do is become more transmedia, more transgeneration, and that would lay a very strong foundation for this IP to potentially become a forever franchise or evergreen IP, like a lot of other great IPs that we see out there.
I mean, there's this venture beat news from Teen that you pretty much tripled your user base. So it's not like web games are old and dead or something. You need like new strategies to bring them back. So how is the current stats right now?
Yeah, so we tripled our user base last year. Well, I guess since we took over, maybe more than triple now. A big part of it is actually kind of like the segment of users that left like in the past 5 to 10 years, and then mainly is actually reactivation of getting these users to come back, and that has been working very well for us because, as I mentioned, we've been fixing a lot of these bugs. We've been upgrading the basic gameplay, reintroducing content into classic game. So that has been what been driving our growth. But even up till now, we're only at like kind of like less than 2% of our historical peak. So we still have a pretty high ceiling for us to get to in with the classic game just by attracting our lapsed users to come back and be engaged and kind of say hi to the childhood. So that's kind of our most successful growth strategy so far. But of course, what we're trying to do with the IP, with the merchandise, is really creating a marketing flywheel where we put our merch out there, many more of the lapsed users that probably played in the early 2000s, but they left early, they probably won't come back to play a game that they haven't played for 20 years. But once they see a childhood, like one of their childhood favorite IPs, like seeing Neopets in merchandise. I mean, when they're a kid, they probably don't have much. We don't really do that many merch back then, but now they can have the chance to own a piece of their childhood or really rekindle the magic that they shared with Neopets as part of their childhood. I think that's kind of the angle that we're seeing, where a lot of users they don't play our game anymore, but they can still purchase our merch and they can still engage with Neopets in those ways. And that's kind of the why we're kind of like doubling down on this IP licensing and merchandise uh, play to really help create that marketing flywheel to get more people to engage with Neopets in different formats.
It's uh, I forgot to say. I forgot what to say. Uh, it's interesting to see that you can bring back the old users as well, the old players, because like everyone is focusing on retaining the new, like bringing the new users, new channels, and so on. But with a lot of updates and new content and bug fixes, you could bring back the old players and this nostalgia feeling, as you said, like the keeping something from their childhood, the ownership is interesting. So I guess a lot of old game owners, like the asset owners, can take some notes from your playbook. Uh,
Yeah.
so the web games are becoming very popular right now. Where do you see the web games current stand in when you look at the entire games platform, like mobile, console, PC, and so on? Because I mean, the HTML5 games and like this quick games, it has been there for a long time, but I see it's becoming more popular, especially with the integration to YouTube, LinkedIn. Like it's pretty much all over the place. So, do you think the web games adaptation is also increasing your user base somehow?
So I think because we always lived on a browser, so it's hard to say whether we need to adapt to the browser game again. But I think like we're always trying to see what format works best for our users. But of course, like 25 years, we've been mainly on desktop. We are trying to explore whether there are ways that we can bring the experiences to mobile to make it easier for our players to play Neopets on the go. But I do see that the browser game always has it's kind of like its own niche and advantage where, well, I mean, it's easier to play a web browser game. I would say maybe like when you're at work, to be honest, like you just check on your virtual pet for a little bit when you needed to take a break. And then people are really cares a lot more about like positive screen time and also whether you want to be staring at your phone all the time or do you want to be looking at a bigger screen and kind of have a more relaxed, have a gaming experience. I think that's kind of also things that people start to care more about. I think we've definitely seen the growth of mobile. Everyone's on their phone, but like you want to spend kind of like snippets of your time on mobile playing games, but you're actually competing with all the other types of entertainment that's also trying to fight for that kind of like time when you're doing mobile, kind of like when you're commuting or when you're traveling or in between meetings. But like being on a web-based game, it's actually kind of like a different space where okay, between work, between kind of like Zoom meetings, you can play like a web browsing game like pretty casually and then pretty relaxingly, instead of trying to fight with all the other things that could happen on mobile. So that's kind of like a niche space that I feel like there's just actually making a comeback, and that we also see that it's definitely a majority of our traffic still for sure. But of course, we want to create an experience where Neopets is a very huge MMORPG, kind of like virtual pet game. Whether we can distill it and have some of the most important kind of like daily activities, for example, to this to live on a native app. We're definitely exploring that. And then apart from our mini games that on our browser, we also have two kind of like like more bigger mobile games that are kind of like as like side quests to the classic game, as like a mobile native games. Which we do have it. We have introduced that last year, and we do see that some of our users do enjoy playing a more mobile friendly Neopets experience. And then while like the main game still exists on the classic side.
Okay. So you mentioned trans media IP, you have like merchandise and so on. So how do you see the IP evolving beyond the game?
Yeah, so I think beyond gaming, we're definitely doing a lot of merchandise, leveraging on the IP, working with our licensing agency and our licensees to bring more merch to the market. So for example, in the past year, we've launched like a trading card game with Upper Deck. Recently, we've launched a limited edition Monopoly, a Neopets edition Monopoly. So these are kind of like different ways for our users to interact with our IP. And in terms of transmedia opportunities, we're actively exploring, for example, whether there should be a Neopets maybe live action movie, or could it be a Neopets animation shorts or animation series? So these are things that we can explore. It takes time, but what we're actively doing is like, can we create more like content on social media? So at least that Neopets exists into kind of like more formats and to everyone's like how daily lives, apart from just the game itself.
Okay, that's interesting. But where, which country buys the toy the most?
Oh yeah, by far US and Canada makes up for 70% of our user base. So we are very focused on US and Canada.
And do you have this data that like I mean, it's difficult to track uh, who buys the toys, but like non-players buying the toys as well. So you're expanding beyond the game. That's the main thing.
Yeah, most of our merch are still distributed in the US market. We are trying to find better ways to serve our kind of international audience, like the 30% of the player base that kind of like it's all over the globe. We are trying to see what's better way that we can have our merch and have our kind of have these merch shipped to our international player base at more affordable kind of shipping rates, or make it more accessible for them as well.
Okay. What's the community's reaction for the revival so far? I mean, you already tripled your user base, but as an old gamer, like someone who played the game for 10 years, for example, what had their demands except new content and bug fix?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of things that we're able to deliver, but there's also a lot of things that it's hard for us to deliver at this stage. But the community, I would say, has been very positive and supportive in most of our initiatives. They actually have been a big part of this revival. A lot of community feedback has been gathered. We have community ambassador program. We've conducted many ask the anything sections with the community, try to be a lot more transparent with our roadmap, and also getting our community involved and getting us feedback. We're doing focus groups, surveys to collect a lot of these data. So we've been listening to the community, and that's a big part of this kind of this revival. We really want to do this with the community, for the community, and to be honest, we've been involving the community at almost every step uh, of the way, at every step along the way. So I think I've been seeing a lot of positive feedback, and it's great that we see the love and the support that we have from the community, and almost everything we push out or we updated, we always get immediate feedback. I mean, sometimes, of course, there are bugs, of course, there are things that we could have done better, and the community understands. There are some backlashes, but once we do have like a transparent conversation, at the end of the day, the community, we all just want a better Neopets experience, and we want to bring more of the old content back. So whether we can churn through the to-do list faster and execute efficiently is kind of what we're acting on. And we have like no what we have like more than 100 items on our to-do list, have like all these requests from our community members, knowing exactly what are the bugs are, but how to fix it, we don't know, but we have to churn through the list to get through that. But so far, I think it's been a very positive experience, and we've been working very closely with the community, and we've been listening and fixing a lot of things that they've been asking for.
There's a lot of backlash into AAA games about not listening to community, and then some executive does what they want, and then the players don't get it. So, like listening to community and pretty much bringing the update and content is working alongside with community. So, just as the tips and tricks to work with the community, like for other game makers, what would you say? Not just like getting, okay, we want this type of content, can you just build it? Because there must be a way to listen and then take what's good and what like feasible.
Yeah, I think for our scenario, it might be different, but my advice is be as transparent as possible, and then involve the community early on. Because a lot of things we're not really building new things, but we are trying to fix old things, but while upgrading the system. So we are kind of like introducing new game features while where we kind of like brainstorming how to fix certain feature, for example. Then what we try to do is that we involve our community pretty early on. Like we have a community ambassador programs. We even do like focus groups with them where we have an idea in mind or some things that we want to change or upgrade or rebuild. Then we'll gather the opinions. And also like the community ambassadors have been very great. They also sometimes help gathering more like kind of like key opinions from the community and like run surveys and stuff like that. And then that's kind of how we've see it where we feel it works best is actually get involved them earlier on at the design stage. And then that can actually help our game designers to really have a more balanced view to decide on how to groom the task and how to really build it out as a feature. And then, of course, once we kind of like groom it out, then we kind of have a more kind of like transparent roadmap of like, okay, we're working on this. Probably in 2 months' time, it'll be launched. And then once we launch, we give a more kind of like detailed update about what's happening, why we decided the way we did on how we built certain things. And then that actually goes a long way in getting the community support and also getting the communities to understand not everything can be uh, when we get our feedback, not everything uh, that's mentioned, we can do it, but at least they know that we're actively listening. And even when we don't do something, we try to explain why certain things didn't make sense, and that's why we decided to go in a different direction. That really goes a long way, and I think that would be my biggest advice is to basically listen and give feedback and be transparent.
Is this a playbook that you brought in? Otherwise, this was already ongoing and you took it over? Because my next question is, what's your biggest take from reviving an old game? So you mentioned a lot of community right now.
Yeah, so I think it's something new, but it's also something that I observe that the community is actually very tight knit and they have a lot of great ideas and they are actually the ones that knows the game the most because they've been playing hours and hours on like 20 years or even more. So they actually are the best experts to understand the game from a gamer's perspective. So actually, that's kind of something new that we brought in as a new management team that like we need to focus on building with the community because Neopets has only been able to survive for 25 years. It's because we have a very strong community and we have a very loyal player base that didn't give up on Neopets when for the past 10 years. We don't really have that many updates and there has been more and more bugs. But they stuck with us and they kind of helped Neopets go through this kind of like decade of darkness. And so I think that's something we're very proud of that we're able to do. And we definitely want to make sure that we bring the best and make Neopets kind of fun and playable and enjoyable for everyone again.
Anyone who has some old game like 10 plus years should listen to this interview and then they take some notes, rewind the community. You're like, it's frustrating for players that they love the game so much, but then the developers they're just leaving. Of course, there's the financial decisions as well in so many cases. But you're doing a good job by tripling the user count right now, at least for a threat.
Yeah. I think it also really helps is kind of like our talent acquisition strategy when we're kind of like expanding a team or we're trying to find the right talent. A big part of a lot of the times we actually try to recruit from the community as well. And then most of our team members basically are players as well. And they understand the game. They've been playing Neopets for a long time. And when you have that, it's actually you're like it's kind of like part of our strategy where almost like the whole team, they're very passionate about Neopets from day one when they join, and they already have lots of ideas that they want to bring in. So in our company, it's like we actually don't lack ideas. We just have to focus on how to prioritize among all the ideas that we have and all the feedback that we've gotten, and then we just have to prioritize what makes sense the most. What could give us like the best kind of like more sustainable growth and better foundation so that we can build faster and execute faster.
Well, prioritization is the most important thing for founders and the CEOs, I guess. Um, so what I mean, I move to the advice part to wrap it up. Look, I will ask two questions on that. So, what would be your advice for companies leaders who is managing IP games right now, especially considering how fast the games industry changing at the moment?
Yeah, I think for us, at least in this journey, one thing that's very important for Neopets is really understanding how like what's core to Neopets and why people love it so much, and really understanding that why the community loves game, but also beyond the game. why Neopets as an IP could be loved by many more. Really staying true to the roots and staying true to the DNA of the IP is really important. And I think running an IP game, where we try to think of potential outside of just gaming, it's really about kind of like the kind of like telling that story of the IP and then kind of really having that magic to exist outside the game is really important. And then probably after you figure out what's the magic of this IP and then how can I translate it to other types of products and merchandise, you'll be kind of how we try to make Neopets as an IP to exist outside of the game.
Mhm. And what would you tell to anyone who will start their career in games industry as a founder?
I mean, I love the gaming industry. I'm not sure if I have any advice, but I would say the gaming industry has been way more collaborative than any other industries that I've been in. And then like everyone is so passionate. Like the builders are always very passionate. Like there are a lot of great indie studios where they all try to like make great games for more players to enjoy. And that's something that you don't see as often in other industries where everyone is willing to share their secrets. Everyone is willing to kind of like share resources if they could and kind of like, oh, this is a great game and we all play it. And people don't really see each other as competitors. Unlike another industry where he's like, oh, if you do well, then that means you're taking shares from myself. And the gaming industry is something like people don't think like that. And I think it's a very, very interesting and fun and exciting industry to be in.
I'm Turkish. I can debate on that, but I think it's one of the most cultural, you know. I mean, we like all the players in the games industry, like players in terms of stakeholders, we are as good as our own industry, right? Like more players, happy players, spending players, and the potential as an ecosystem, we can do better. So competing is one thing, but sharing the ideas and some tips and tricks to help us do better is very important. One bonus question: you were a player before. Did you have any idea while you were playing and said, I wish I had that? And then when you become the CEO, you brought that feature.
Uh, To be honest, not as much because to be completely honest, I played a lot when I was a kid, but I've stopped playing when I was in like high school. And then it's kind of like I'm not as engaged with the game, kind of like in the past decade, but I do talk to a lot of the existing players that are still playing in the team. That's where I gather my insights to know, okay, that definitely makes sense. And it's interesting to see sometimes they mention certain things and oh, that rings a bell. I remember as a kid, I do see that problem. But it's kind of coming from existing players who've seen that same problem for the past 10 years or even since when I play. Then that's kind of interesting to see. Okay, that's something obvious. Why haven't we fixed it for so many years? So yeah, so I mean, but I would lean a lot more on our team members who are kind of like active players throughout and they know the game inside out and also the changes that happens over the years. Then kind of my few years of experience playing Neopets and grinding Neopets back then.
Yeah, nice. Well, Dominic, thank you so much for sharing insight for IP games, web games. I wish Neopets another 25 years and that hopefully we'll be around it. We'll do another Neopets celebrating the 50th year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.